Good day, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon webinar series. Before we get started, let's take a look at the share disclaimer. Please be aware that neither Market Chameleon, Dimitri, or myself are registered investment advisors or a broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This show, as all our shows, is for informational purposes only concerning Market Chameleon tools and products. With that, one last look at the disclaimer, and let's welcome Dimitri Pargamonic to the stage to talk about open auction stock trade explained. All right, Dima, we welcome you to the stage, my friend.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. So let me share your screen.
Okay.
There you go.
And yeah, let me go to the screener, and then we'll talk about the opening auction or the official opening price in the stock. First, let me navigate to the screener under stocks, main menu. On the left-hand side, we're going to click on open auction, opening auction. And we come to the screener. And before we get started, let me just explain what the opening auction is. It's when we think about official opening, we have different trading sessions in stock. We have pre-market trading, we have the opening auction, we have regular hours trading, we have the closing auction, and we have after hours trading. And these sessions, they all get treated a little bit differently with different rules and even different market participants. For example, in the pre-market trading, that happens before the official opening, before 9:30. You could have trading 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and so forth. Well, these are not trading sessions where we have the same rules like we do regular trading hours, where you have specialists and market makers with certain obligations. There are institutions that could trade with VWAP orders and all types of basically, every market participant can trade in a regular trading hours, but there are restrictions in the pre-market trading. You'd have to get approved institution. Certain institutions can't trade in a pre-market. Certain even retail traders may not get approved in a pre-market trading. But the opening auction, what it does is it accumulates orders, buy and sell orders, before the market opens. So you could, right now we're not open yet, so you could enter in orders to buy or to sell that qualify for regular hours trading, but not pre-market. And those orders accumulate on a specialist book. Then the specialist takes those orders and finds the closest equilibrium price where you get the most matched up, and opens the trading on this single price auction. Okay, so you have orders that could be bid all the way up here, down here. He finds an equilibrium and opens it up at that price. And then you have regular weight trading, where you have bids and offers displayed and continuous trading. So right now we're looking at the open price. Okay, and if we go, let me actually. So you see here, there are 8,781 stocks in here that open. This is as of Friday's open, because we're not open yet today. So we're still in a pre-market session. So this is looking back at the previous day opening auction. But I'm going to filter out some of the stocks that opened with a higher volume. Let's just say above 100,000. Okay, so you could see here now we narrowed it down to 191 stocks out of 8,781, which indicates that there are many stocks that could open up with very little volume. Could have 100 shares. You need a trade to open, right? So when you open, you need an opening transaction to print a price. So sometimes it could be very small. And sometimes you might not have a opening trade right in the morning. You might have one later. But we're going to take a look at stocks with a little bit more volume. So I filtered it out with opening volume about 100,000. So if we go from left to right, we could see here's the symbol, the name, the opening price, and then we look at the price relative to the previous day's close to see, well, at the open, how did the stock do relative to a different reference price? So in this case, the previous day. So if it was up on the day, it shows that there's a demand for the stock, right, to drive the price up. If it was down on the day, then there was a supply of stock that had an imbalance to drive the stock lower. Okay, so uptick, downtick. So we could see here this one opened higher, 84.6% on a volume of 311,000. So before we move on to these reference prices, and what we're trying to see is these reference prices are giving us insights of what's going on, what may have happened. And part of the insights is understanding the dynamics of some of these orders and how rules work and so forth. So certain things may happen at the opening price where a trader may be forced, okay, to trade at the open. This could happen where somebody is forced to liquidate a position. For example, a short position when you're short stock, if you're short stock and you cannot find a locate or borrow, right? You failed to locate, meaning like you can't. If you sold short a stock, you have to borrow from someone, right? You can't just sell short a stock that you don't have the stock to sell. You need to borrow from somebody, right? Like you need to say, okay, I borrowed this stock. Now I have this possession of the stock. I sold it, meaning you're short because you still have to return it to the person. Well, if you fail to locate, meaning like maybe you borrowed it from somebody and now you have to give it back because that person that sold his stock, or you can't find an alternative, well, you may be forced to buy that stock back. And if you're forced to buy that stock back, the clearing firm will put that order in the morning and say, okay, you can't locate it. You got to buy back. You're going to buy back, at the open. So you can be forced to liquidate a short position. On the other side, you could be forced to liquidate a long position, because if you own stock, a lot of this happens, to traders where they have a portfolio of stock on margin. It's not uncommon for even most professionals will use their margin, and if their position reaches a point where they have a margin call and they can't make up for that margin, they may be forced to liquidate stock. Sometimes it happens where you reach a point, maybe a stock's falling, or it gets to the point where you're like, well, if you're not meeting your margin call, your stock will get sold out. Could happen in the middle of the day, but it could happen in the morning as well. So these are certain things you have to keep in mind that may be happening. We don't know for sure, but they may be happening there where there are forced transactions. In addition, there could be just a lot of buildup in demand or supply based on news, and there's a big imbalance as well. where everybody wants to be in or everybody wants to be out. And if there's a big imbalance, you could have a lot of volume with a large price impact, right? So we could, let's say this particular stock was so hyped up in the morning or overnight where you had this huge accumulation of buy orders, let's say, because this one stocks up. And everybody rushes in at the same time once in. Well, you could have a situation where that happens. It opens up at a much higher price, but then the enthusiasm dies out. There's no follow through, and you could go back, back down, or it could have a follow through, like in this situation. So these are things to kind of monitor and pay attention to, and we don't know for sure, but the price activity and the volume following these events give us some clues. Okay, so in this situation, PSRO, I'm just hovering over there. It's a takeover target, so it might make sense here why it's already up, with being a takeover target. Here, there's a stock here. It was up 56% in the morning on 124,000 shares that traded. And that was 149 times its relative opening price. So usually this doesn't trade that much. This is giving us a relative open, right? It does, maybe on an average day, there's 1,000 shares, or 500 shares or 800 shares at the open. 124,000 is unusual because we can see there on a relative basis, that's a lot. For a stock like Apple or Tesla, it's not a lot. But for this particular stock is a lot. So it's shown us that there's more interest than typical in this stock at the open. And here it gives us the dollar value of all the stock traded. So $366,000 worth of stock traded in the morning, which may not be that much, 366 for this stock it is, but it's a low price stock. So about $366,000 worth of stock, if we take the volume times the price, traded at the open. We could compare that also to the pre-market, where what was happening in the pre-market hours right before the opening price. So I'm going to jump here. Let's move from this current versus open. In the pre-market, we could see that there's way more trading going on in the pre-market than at the open. 35 million shares traded at the open. In the pre-market. So before the opening auction, 35. So the vast majority of it was trading in a pre-market. Okay. Compared to the opening, you could see there like way more on a relative basis than usual. And in the morning, here's what's in the pre-market, the volume weighted average price, the VWAP price was $3.17. Okay, so 35 million shares on the volume weighted average price, $3.17, which was above, right, the opening price trade 21 cents lower. So you can see here at 296, which may indicate maybe there at that opening price there might be pressure back up, right? Where you're like, well, why is it on such light volume traded below this? Which is what happened. You could see here after the open, the price continued high. It closed went up to $3.65, up another 23%. Right, from the 296. And another thing here is we take a look at, the price did drift a little bit lower before the open to 295. So right before the open, we see Well, right before the open, where was this is the VWAP price. So this is the volume weighted average price of all the volume in the pre-market, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., all the way up. This is right before the open, the last minute. Where was the stock? 295. So you can see there it did uptick a little bit. So sometimes you may see a very big divergence, from the opening price to the and right before the pre-market VWAP. There's a $6, but this one was close, only off by a penny on an uptick. So here it shows that there's, at least just looking at from the perspective of this stock, we did see a big surge in the opening volume, but that volume, even though it's huge, was not that large relative to the pre-market. The pre-market was way bigger, 35 million, and the pre-market activity, the stock was higher. Pre-market activity indicated that there was even, trading even at a higher VWAP price than the opening, and it showed that after the opening, there was continued pressure up, right? So this wasn't just like some kind of just a liquidation and then everybody was cleaned up and the stock drifted lower. There was actual, strong demand following that opening price, followed through on the pre-market strength, the opening price, and so forth, and then all the way up to the end. Well, I'm going to stop there. I wanted to kind of go over the data elements today of that opening auction screen.
Yeah, that was great job, D. Thanks for bringing that to the Chameleon community. Thanks for starting off the week with another webinar. You have a great day, my friend, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Right. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. We'll hope to see you tomorrow.
All right, have a great day, D. Bye. Thanks, everyone, for joining the webinar series. If you are here for the first time and haven't checked out Market Chameleon, please click on the link to the webinar to the free trial, and you can try a free 7-day trial. Everyone else who is on trial or user, thanks so much for being part of the Chameleon community. Swami, if you share that video with me, I will share it with the Chameleon community tomorrow. Everyone have a safe trading day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.